Hello, this is Alex from FCOG Gaming, and you are watching episode 3 of my KSP Realistic series. Last time we left off, Jeb was stranded on the moon with little to no fuel. But we did get some science, so I go ahead and unlock a couple modules here. Basically some advanced electrical stuff, a few things for control, and kind of just shop around looking for a couple other modules. This is my rescue ship. It's basically the same ship as before, with a little bit extra fuel, no science modules, and a probe body strapped in there, just so that I can send an empty capsule through it. And I'm not going to bore you with the launch details. It gets up relatively smoothly. I apologize for most of this video being dark. I figured it was kind of a time-sensitive thing, so I didn't want to mess around with time or getting it to the daylight side and all that stuff. So my apologies. Anyway, we make it to orbit just fine, burn towards the moon, and yeah, we're well on our way to a rescue. Now, the reason I decided to go with a probe body strapped to it rather than two pods is, well, A, I don't have the technology for any two-man pods or the three-man pod, and also aerodynamics. Basically, it made more sense to kind of strap that in there in the middle rather than have a weird shaped pod on top. At least that's the way I figured. It was just a little bit easier. Although Bill was itching to go, I had to sit him down, kind of calm him down since his brother was up there all alone. But, you know, it works. So, the tricky part about any rescue mission, or really any mission where you have to land at a precise point, is landing where you're supposed to. I personally am not very good at this. Usually in situations like this, I'll use MechJeb's auto land. But I don't have that option, and I personally think I did pretty good. I was only a couple kilometers off, which with the EVA propellant in the EVA suit, that's definitely a doable distance to travel. Now, I did cut out a lot of me crashing into the ground with Jeb, and the first time I attempted it, I actually ran out of propellant because I overshot, which isn't too great, but I mean, that's somewhat of what autosave is for. Anyway, I do a relatively clean landing. I do bounce off the surface once, but all in all, considering how close I was able to get, I was pretty happy with the outcome. Now, of course, the next step is to get Jeb out of his old capsule and move him all the way to his new capsule where he will make his way home. So, under the cover of darkness, because, you know, you don't want any spies to see this type of thing, Jeb gets out. He's sure to take all of the science from the old capsule, which is very important, and is able to fly more or less unscathed to the new ship. Which, yeah, I apologize for how dark it is. Trust me, it would have been a lot easier to make this journey with it not being this dark. I had a very hard time seeing where I was going, and as I said, it actually took me 2 tries to get there in one piece. But I did eventually make it, and you can just see the lights there, which does give you something to aim for. I'll sit down right in front of it, and I decided to walk around to the front and get in, and that's that. Like I said, it was relatively painless rescue mission. Luckily, I did have enough fuel to get back with this ship, which a lot of times I've failed to do in the past, just playing on my own time. But that is not the case here, and all we have to do is get it back into lunar orbit, and then do a transfer back to Kerbal, and we can all enjoy that sweet, sweet science that is, well, why we're here, of course. So, anyway, hopefully in the next few episodes things will start picking up. I do have a few plans for some interesting builds, some interesting methods of farming out science. I'm trying to make it so that it's not just me going to the moon and Minimus for the first quarter of the game and getting science that way until I can get enough things to go interplanetary. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully I'll be able to make that a little bit more of an interesting journey, so that you guys can watch. I mean, I obviously want you guys to be happy. That's the entire reason that I'm making these videos. But yeah, if there's any suggestions that you guys have, feel free to share them in the comments down below. But yeah, hopefully it won't be too boring. And as Jeb descends back through the atmosphere, carrying his sweet bounty of science, we treated ourselves to a couple explosions of the remaining ship. I liked that. Luckily I had my camera pointed that way. I'm not sure if that's the distant object mod doing its job there, or if it was close enough to where I would have seen it anyway, but it definitely looked nice on that, the blackness. I enjoyed that thoroughly. So, anyway, and he's descending to the surface in pitch blackness, which is always fun to watch. Again, sorry. But yeah, he does touch down just fine. And yeah, always a good thing. Even grabs a little bit more science off the ground once he lands. And with that, we get 276 science, plus everything that we've already beamed back to the surface. It was a very successful mission as far as that goes. Which means we get to unlock more parts, which is awesome. So, yeah, just going through here, getting a few more electrical things. If you notice, I like electrical things. Just because I don't like running out of electricity. That's always embarrassing. But yeah, pretty soon we're gonna start getting into the advanced construction stuff, the things necessary to build space stations, multi-module ships, that kind of thing. I do want to start mining Kethane pretty shortly, and kind of do that whole thing so that I can reuse ships instead of launching one every single time. But that's something that'll be saved for future episodes. Now, this ship design, I completely messed up. I don't know what I was thinking. Should have just added a buttload more fuel, and I didn't. And because of that, I end up kind of having the same situation as I had with the previous mission, except Jeb was able to get into orbit, and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about here in a little bit. This mission was buggy, on top of not being planned very well, and I don't know what was going on with it. It's by far the most difficult moon mission I've ever had. And it definitely took a long time. What you're watching of this mission is edited down from about 2.5 hours of me dicking around with it, which was not fun. But yeah, anyway, we get into orbit, we do our transfer. At this point, I'm thinking that I have plenty of fuel, but because the launch was a little bit off, I end up coming in at an angle, which I don't think would have been a big deal if I was going straight. I think I would have had enough fuel to get home, but I end up having to kind of correct myself. I do decide to land in the twin craters this time, just a different biome to get more science out of. And yeah, it was difficult from the start. Right? This is about the time that I realized that I was wasting way too much Delta P, and we kind of needed to watch what we were doing. But we do land relatively safely. But once we land, I realize that the hatch cannot open. It says that it's blocked. I don't know what was blocking it. I don't know. So we can't get a surface sample. We can't get our EVA report from the surface, which isn't too detrimental. I mean, we still are able to get every other thing. So, I mean, still somewhat successful mission, but I spent way more time than I would have liked to trying to figure this out. And that's why this mission is kind of hacked up, because I edited out quite a bit of it. So, anyway, we're going back to Kerbal at this point. Because I don't have very much fuel left, I decide, instead of getting into an orbit and then making my transfer, I just shoot straight up in the air at the right time, which actually worked pretty well, and get into a return trajectory. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite make it. So what we're seeing here is Jeb, being the engineer that he is, moving a solar panel to the pod so that he can eject the rest of the ship. Why would he do this? I don't know. Actually, I do know because I made him do it. He's actually going to get out and push. I think at this point our periapse was about 1,000,000 kilometers, and using his EVA suit, just pushing against the heat shield back there, over the course of probably a good half an hour, we're able to get him back down to a periapse that's about 20 kilometers. And then jettison that solar panel once we get close. Another nice explosion there, and land. I mean, it did work. I still think that it's within the realistic scope because I figure they've got tons of EVA propellant, right? And it worked. It worked just fine. It was very time consuming and very nerve wracking because I had to make sure that he wasn't like sliding off the heat shield or something like that. But yeah, it worked. Long story short. So anyway, like I said, if you have suggestions on how I can make this a little bit more interesting, feel free to let me know. Other than that, this is Alex with FCOD Gaming, and I don't want to say fly safe because that's Scott Manley's thing. But until next time, make sure you guys take care.